So this is part 5, the final part of my multi-part visual essay about my ideal Elder Scrolls game. In this part, I'm going to cover miscellaneous things and systems that need to be overhauled in my ideal Elder Scrolls game. And I'm going to first tackle something that has basically been kind of shit for the last 2 games, or at least not what it could be, and that's magic. So without much ado, let's get into it after the cut. So one of the major issues in the Elder Scrolls series is that magic doesn't feel, at least, for the last 2 games, I'd say Oblivion and definitely Skyrim, magic does not feel like it has oomph. Now, with the power of mods, you can make magic seem badass, but the vanilla magic system is kind of trash. So here's my idea to overhaul the magic system to make it feel more impactful and badass. So I think magic should be, I think all of the skills in the game should be based upon die rolls going on underneath the hood of the game. So basically, if you are a novice at using magic, or you have a very low magic skill, like 5 out of 100, your magic spell should be like shit. Like, it'd be easier for you to just run up to someone and punch them in the face than to cast a magic spell. However, at higher levels, from novice to apprentice to journeyman to adept to master, like basically, those different tiers should mean that once you get to apprentice, your magic spell should start to be combat effective if it's destructive magic. So I also think enemies should have elemental weaknesses so that like different magics become viable in combat. So, if you hit the undead with fire, they have a weakness to that. If you hit a troll with fire, they have a weakness to that. So that would do more damage than, say, an ice or lightning spell, or, a non-elemented spell. So that basically encourages you to use magic in an effective way. So I think that in my ideal Elder Scrolls game, I would say that certain magics need to be overhauled. For example, enchantment needs to be split into 2. You have enchantment and sorcery. So basically, when I say sorcery, I mean basically sorcery would be spells that you channel into something that lets you cast spells or have some type of magical effect. So, for example, like if you have a sword that you basically, using sorcery, you basically make it so that every time you hit an enemy with that spell, it lights them on fire, or shocks them, or poisons them. That's not an enchantment. You're channeling a magical spell within that weapon. An enchantment, in my opinion, would be something like, okay, I have boots that basically let me run faster, or boots that let me sneak better. That's an enchantment. It's enhancing an ability that you either already have, or an ability that giving you ability that you normally don't have. Whereas, sorcery would be like you channeling a spell into a weapon, or a spell already in a weapon or item that you can use. Like these are boots of high jump that let me jump insanely high normally than I normally could. Or this is a cloak of water breathing, lets me breathe underwater. Basically they would work kind of like how staffs do, except instead of having their own internal magical reservoir, they use your magic. However, depending on the level of the spell and your level of magical ability, that drain can be negligible or quite a bit. That's how I would basically like to see magic handled. I would like to see conjuration divided into two trees. The first one would be summoning, and the second one would be summoning. No, the first one would be contracting, and the second one would be summoning. So contracting would basically have you forming contracts with various creatures. So, semi-magical creatures. So, like a troll, or an ogre, or, one of those minotaurs from Cyrodiil, or a giant, okay? You would basically form a magical contract with that creature, and they would become bound to you. You could basically summon them, beseech them to come and help you, okay? Now, summoning in the classic sense of the term, like, oh, I summoned a Daedra, that's a completely different thing, because these are creatures that have their own wills, and there's a chance it'll backfire. There's a chance that if you summon a Daedra, it will backfire, and they'll get out of control and kill your ass. This is where the skill checks under the hood come in. If you're contracting with a creature that's higher level than you, there's a chance that they'll get enraged and kill your ass for even daring to trying to contract with them. And if you're Daedra summoning, I think the lowest level Daedra summoning spell in the summoning tree, if you split the trees in two, would be just summon Daedra. And you might, more often than not, you'll probably get a shit Daedra. However, there's also a chance, due to die rolls going on under the hood, that you'll get a powerful Daedra. And if you get a powerful Daedra, there's a high chance that if your skill level isn't high enough, they'll get out of control and murder your ass. So, shit like this makes magic, basically, magic should be hard to master. But once you master it, basically, a sword and board warrior, someone wielding a sword, is going to get fucked up by a magic user if they have no magical defenses. That's how magic should be handled in my ideal Elder Scrolls game. In all magic should be viable for in-game. So, restoration should have offensive spells like reverse healing and, light-based spells that do, general damage to normal people, but to undead and Daedra, massive amounts of damage. That type of thing. Let's see, what else? That's about it with the magic. I'm going to talk about how I would like to overhaul melee combat in the next little bit. So in this part, I'm going to be talking about overhauling the physical combat in the game. So bow and arrows, melee attacks, that type of thing. I think that magic, that melee attacks and projectiles, I think they should add new weapon types. I think melee weapons should be divided into these categories. I think they should bring back, I think small weapons, so daggers and knives, should be completely different from one-handed swords. Two-handed weapons can be their own thing, but there should be distinct. Once you get to a certain skill level, you should have to focus into one particular family, which cuts you off from other weapons. So you're not going to be almighty, unless you 100% that skill, two-handed weapons, and then make it legendary, where your choices from the other ones you still know, but your skill goes back down to 5 or 10 or whatever, and then you can regrow your skill learning the other shit you didn't get the other time, while retaining knowledge of your past stuff. I think that instead of just damage being based, defeating enemies being based on how much damage you do, I think it should be calculated based on location. So if you take a bow and arrow and you hit someone in the head, that's a one shot. Like, there's no, oh, well, they shrugged that off. I think that would really make the game interesting. I think that they should bring back guns. That's right. You heard me. I think they should have guns in the game. Now, these won't be something like magnums or, anything like that. These will be like, basically like flintlocks or stuff like that. Flintlocks and muskets. So yeah, the next one I'm going to go over my ideal difficulty, i.e. what I think difficulty should be, because, generally speaking, Elder Scrolls games don't know how to do difficulty well. So I'll get into that in the next clip after the cut. So, Bethesda has a problem with their Elder Scrolls and Fallout games in basically how they handle difficulty. Because it actually sucks how they handle difficulty. So here's how I would handle difficulty in the Elder Scrolls game. Here's how I'd do it. And you could apply this to Fallout games as well, but especially Elder Scrolls. So here we go. Here's how I would handle difficulty. Essentially speaking, the way difficulty would be handled in my ideal Elder Scrolls game would be like this. Instead of just, in order to say, oh, this is a more difficult, this is a higher difficulty, the enemies have more health. That's lazy and isn't really indicative of real difficulty. So here's how I do it. Basically, difficulty would, for humanoid enemies, means they're smarter. And they utilize more damaging tactics. So, if you're playing the game on legendary difficulty, bandits will flank you. The bandit leaders will use more will actually have access to alchemy potions that they can basically hurl at enemies that are basically the equivalent to grenades and shit, making them more dangerous. Okay. They'll actually have access to alchemy potions to heal their other helpers, or scrolls that let them summon creatures to help them fight. So they'll have orders for their compatriots to make fighting more difficult. They'll flank you. People will try and get you into scorpion formations where the bandit leader might be in front of you and their men might be behind you trying to attack you from behind where you can't see them. Essentially speaking, what I'm saying is this. Difficulty should be calculated on enemies fighting smarter and not just some bullshit. It's basically what I'm saying. So with that being said, how can we make this better? Well, here's my opinion on how to make it better. In terms of difficulty. For humanoid enemies, they should fight smarter. For bandits, like I said, they should use tactics. If you're facing off against, undead like liches and magic users, to make them more difficult, they should use more powerful spells and smartly. So, they should, cut off your ability to run away, drain your magical ability, paralyze you, and then try and hit you with really powerful shit while you're defenseless. That type of thing. For animals, I think you should just, if you want animals to be more difficult, they should use skills that show more tactics versus just having a ton of health. The only enemies that should really be damage sponges on top of this are maybe the lower tier, weaker enemies like skeevers. Maybe make it so that they can give you rabies or some type of disease more often and maybe have more health, but not to the point where it's like, man, this skeever has 250 health when normally they have 50. Making enemies into damage sponges is lazy and kind of, how can I put this? kind of stupid. And I think it could be a lot better. So with that being said, those are just my opinions about this series. Tell me your thoughts. What would you like to see in your ideal Elder Scrolls game? Or, you know, maybe not ideal. What do you think the series could do better? So, rate, comment, share, subscribe. You can reach me at mrredfoxbsbuster@gmail.com. You can @ me on Twitter at mrredfox91. There's a link to the Discord in the description. Peace and have a good day.